Good morning, I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. Thanksgiving's coming, and I hope that's not a shock. Now, whether you're responsible for the entire Thanksgiving menu or just one side dish, join me today for some favorites of mine that I hope can become a favorite of yours too, here on So Flow Taste. How fun is that? Good morning all, I am Chef Michelle Bernstein in the Goya Kitchen at Junior Achievement of South Florida and Coconut Creek, and welcome to So Flow Taste. In the food world, it's the Super Bowl, the Oscars, and 4th of July fireworks all mixed, folded, blended, and robo-cooped into one. It's Thanksgiving, of course, and it's coming. And as always, ever since our first year of So Flow Taste, I've dedicated 2 entire shows to this great holiday of giving thanks and overeating. Today, I thought it would be fun and proper to start me helping you with our holiday menu. So let's get cooking and making some delicious sides for our turkey. All right, number 1, green bean casserole, but we're making the casserole of all casseroles. We're gonna start out while we saute our mushrooms. I will also be cooking a little bechamel. Let's get started with sauteing the mushrooms. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil as well as butter for the mushrooms. And I've got some julienne shallots here. I've got different kinds of mushrooms, and I love when you all just go shopping and see what you find, because it doesn't have to be exactly what I'm doing. You can get fancy and get porcini mushrooms dried. So you can use whatever fresh mushrooms you might find out in the world. But today I have creminis and shiitakes. First thing I'm actually going to do is cook those shallots. And these are a lot of onions, and I'm using 2 types of onions because to me, you can never have enough cooked onions in a casserole. So we're starting out with shallots in here. And then, of course, we've purchased French's crispy onions because honestly, nobody makes them this good. While these shallots are cooking, let's go ahead and start on the bechamel, but it's not going to be a regular bechamel. I've decided to turn it into a little bit of a velouté, if you will. Velouté is kind of like bechamel, where you start out with a roux, but instead of adding milk, we're going to add stock. So I'm going to make a velouté with a little bit of milk as well for richness. So we're going to start out with a roux, a little bit of butter, okay, not so little, and then we'll add some flour to it to make a roux, because as you know, equal parts flour and butter make a roux. Now, roux change depending on how dark of a roux you want to make. The darker the color, the more toasty and roasty the flavor. For this recipe, I don't feel like I need a dark roux. I feel like I need a soft looking one because the green beans are the star. Speaking of green beans, these are the green beans here. As you can see, they've already been blanched in a little bit of boiling water for only about 45 seconds. I didn't want to actually cook them because we're going into the oven in a little while. Let's go ahead and add our mushrooms to the sauteed shallot. And these, as you know, are going to cook down like crazy, so let's just leave them for a little bit. And our butter has melted. I'm going to go ahead and add the flour in, stir it all around, and I'm warming up the milk a little bit, and the chicken broth is also warm. It just kind of gives you a little head start on your velouté / bechamel. You don't have to do it. It just helps it go a little bit faster. My roux is a roux. This is what we call a blonde roux. All right, let's keep going. So to that, I'll add a little bit of chicken broth and let that come to a full boil and see where that gets us as far as thickness, and then we'll go ahead and start adding our milk. Now, I've only added 2 herbs to this recipe. I've decided on a little bit of tarragon and some rosemary. You can find tarragon and rosemary at any good supermarket. And we're just going to chop a little bit. You can add a lot of parsley to your casserole too, but since we're going in the oven, I wanted to use herbs that won't really turn very dark with the cooking process. So remember, we have to season everything because we're going to be layering up flavor. So let's go ahead and season our mushrooms with a nice amount of salt and, of course, pepper. Okay, let's check on our velouté. All right, this is now pretty thick. I'm going to go ahead and add some milk. to thin it out a little bit, and like I said, to add a little bit of the richness from the milk. Now, if you're not a milk drinker, you can just make the whole thing with chicken stock or vegetable stock. It's really up to you. Let's keep working our mushrooms. These are almost there. All right, let's season our bechamel now with salt and pepper. And the last thing I wanted to do for flavor was just hit the mushrooms with a little bit of a vinegar called Pedro Ximénez, or PX. Ximénez starts with an X, not a J, by the way. Anyway, so instead of actual sherry, I just thought a couple driblets of some Pedro Ximénez, but if you don't have any at home, if you don't use sherry vinegar a lot, don't worry about it. You can throw a little white wine in here, or drinking sherry, or nothing at all. All right, I'm gonna shut this off. Our bechamel is beautiful and creamy and ready to go. I'm going to cut a little bit of fresh tarragon, some rosemary leaves, throw that into the mushroom. Remember, before you layer up anything, everything has to taste good, right? So you want to make sure that you season everything really, really well before jumping into the layering process. So we're going to take a casserole dish. The first thing we do is get everything a little closer to us. So this can go right here. So how you start this off, add a little bit of this gorgeous bechamel to the bottom of the casserole dish. Let's go ahead and top it with a few of these green beans that have been partially cooked, a few of the mushrooms. Now you see where I'm getting at, right? Okay, go ahead and layer that whole thing up. I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. Don't go too far though. We have a lot to do today.
Come back to SoFlo Taste from the Goya Kitchen at Junior Achievement of South Florida.
Welcome back to SoFlo Taste, and welcome back inside Junior Achievement of South Florida. For information about this great place for our children and their education, go to jasouthflorida.org or call 954-979-7100. Now back to the food and Thanksgiving. Okay, everybody, my gloves are on. I want to teach you how to make the most beautiful vanilla-scented sweet potatoes topped with broiled marshmallows. If you don't like the marshmallow idea, you can dump that, but I'm going to teach you how to make beautiful mashed sweets. First thing I'm going to do, I have a little bit of thyme just wrapped up in a little butcher's twine or string, a little brown sugar, not too much because you don't want it to be over sweet because they're already sweet, some heavy cream. This is the vanilla extract. If you have vanilla beans around, I would use probably about 1/4 to 1/6 of a vanilla bean scraped or vanilla paste, and a good amount of kosher salt. We're going to warm that up. Let the sugar and salt melt in that cream. I've got some butter to finish, but I'm not going to melt that because I didn't really think I needed to. Kind of like it whole so that the milk solids don't separate out of it. And then finally, I have sweet potatoes. So my favorite way to make a sweet potato is to wrap it in foil. But before I do, I drizzle a little bit of oil and season heavily with salt on the skin. It actually does take a little bit of its flavor, and I actually eat the skins as well because I love them. But you have the most perfect, tender, and delicious sweet potato. I save these for later, and I actually either fry them or eat them as they are, eat them as snacks. Super healthy to eat the skin. But look what you have. You have this treasure of the most perfect, delicate, soft sweet potato ever. Go ahead and start mashing that. Now you can use a masher if you want to. You don't really need it. A whisk is perfectly fine. All right, once everything is really well mashed, go ahead and get rid of your whisk because now your work is all going to be done with a rubber spatula. So once your sugar dissolves into the cream, I really would let this sit. If you have the time, let it all kind of melt and let it just sit and macerate because that flavor of the thyme and everything and vanilla will get stronger as it sits. So if you have a good like 10 minutes to let it just sit and hang out, I would do that. So let's pretend we did that. Let's use a little bit of this mixture, pour into our sweet potato, and a few little tiny cubes. That's probably about 2.5 tablespoons of butter right now, and fold everything in. Now, if you're a family that loves a lot of spice, like pumpkin spice for Thanksgiving flavors. Then you can add nutmeg, you can add some ground ginger, you can add cinnamon to this. But I personally think that the flavor of the sweet potato on its own, with obviously a little bit of the vanilla and the herb, is enough for me. All right, so let's go ahead and place this into a deep dish. Not all of the butter has melted, which I personally think is a good thing because it's going to melt in the oven. Make sure you scoop everything out of this bowl. And you want to make enough sweet potato to where you fill whatever dish you're using. You want it to really be all the way to the rim. And I'll show you why in a second. Okay, I'll get every last bit. There we go. Beautiful. So then we're going to take marshmallows. They can be big ones, they can be little ones, totally up to you. And this is what I actually did as a kid, and this is what I make my son do, is we strategically place every marshmallow side by side. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the green beans, because I'll do this during our little break. Let's see how these did. So this is our gorgeous green bean casserole. You see how the green beans only got brighter in color? They're actually more vibrant green than before. It's because I didn't cover the pan and it didn't steam and overcook the green bean. They just cooked a little bit more, and all we have to do is top this with those crispy onions that I cheated and purchased. And the next thing I'm going to do is finish off these marshmallows, get that in the oven, let them all cook at a really high heat. If you have a broiler, turn that baby on now, because that's what you want. You want to broil them. I don't have a broiler here, so I'm going to go as hot as I can. We'll see how it turns out. Even if they melt, it's going to be delicious. Back in a moment with more SoFlo Taste, so don't go away very far. SoFlo Taste will return right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. As you all should know by now, all of my recipes are available on the SoFlo Show's webpage. Just scan this quick response code, you'll zip on over to the fabulous SoFlo Show's page. You'll also see this QRC on the ingredient list throughout the show. Now back to Turkey Day. Speaking of turkeys, hi Joel. Okay, this is Joel. He is one of the chefs that work with me. He has been with me for a long, long time, and I love you. And he's here a lot with me, thank goodness. Hold on. I'm going to show, we are going to show, and he's going to show about spatchcocking a turkey. When you spatchcock your turkey, you will never go back to not spatchcocking your turkey again. We do this at our homes now. It is the best because it's all crispy skin. The cooking time is cut even more than halfway. And it's just amazing. So if you go to Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market, by the way, they will cut the whole backbone. First of all, they have the best turkeys in town. So you'll go and order your turkey and buy your turkey there. But look what they do. They cut the whole backbone out, and you can use that backbone and whatever parts you ask them for stock later, so you can make your gravy. Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market is taking orders now for Thanksgiving through Friday, November 17th. Call them at 954-983-6831. Place your order today. Subscribe to their emails and on their website, and you will receive the monthly newsletter, the Hen House Herald. The November edition features tips and tricks for the best Thanksgiving dinner ever. Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market is at 4191 North State Road 7 in Hollywood. Call them 954-983-6831. Visit DelawareChicken.com or just go on in there, but make sure you place your order for turkey. You won't regret it, and have them spatchcock it for you. And make sure you tell them Chef Michelle sent you, as well as Joel, of course. So Joel, I'm going to use his muscle today because I'm not feeling as strong as he is. Well, I never do. And he's going to show you what you have to do to flatten it. So he's going to pull apart the backbone, just like so, which is really rather simple. And then you are laying your legs, the legs of the turkey, nice and flat. And then you take both your hands right in the center of the breast, and you just push down. That's it. I just wanted to hear that crack. Beautiful. Thank you, amorcito. Thank you. All right, so just so you know, you'll have all this extra skin over here, which is the skin from the neck. We usually like to snap that off. with using a scissor. And this turkey has already been brined, just so you know. And it's really better to brine it before you flatten it out, because once it's in this shape, it's a little harder to find a container to put it into to brine it. So let me tell you a little bit about my brine. This is a pot of ice, because what you need to do is get your brine really cold before you put your turkey into the brine. So this is a pot of ice hanging out and waiting for this delicious emulsion to happen right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm adding about a cup of apple cider vinegar. I'm going to add sugar and salt. I use kosher salt and I use white sugar. A couple of garlic cloves for good measure. Some black peppercorns. I've got bay leaves, rosemary, and thyme, all wrapped up with butcher twine, so that you don't get all those leaves separated and onto your bird, which might burn later when you cook it. Then finally, I love the zest of citrus. To me, it's good in pretty much everything, and I love it in my brine as well. The sweetness is not what's important. It's the kind of saline saltiness, which really makes your bird shine, makes it taste even better. So zest of a lemon, zest of an orange, and then you bring that to a boil, and then you would reduce it down, because all you want to do, again, we always talk about macerating flavors, right? So the longer you let this kind of sit out, the better it gets. So let's pretend that this has been 20 minutes. What you're going to do is just pour this whole thing into your pot of ice, okay? And that's all going to combine, and that is your brining solution. So you can stick your turkey in a big pot. What my mom used to do, put it into a clean garbage bag, put the turkey in first, pour in my very cold brine. I seal it twice. I put another bag and seal it again, and that goes in my fridge for at least 36 hours. Always flip the bird over halfway through, because you want the whole thing to get that brine and to get that flavor. Now, the most important part of all of that when you're spatchcocking is once you remove it, dry it, and push it down, you're going to want to put it on a rack. This is a rack, a baking rack, over a pan. Place it on the rack. Make sure you keep it nice and open. And then this needs to air dry in your refrigerator for at least 12 hours to overnight. I personally do like almost 24 hours. And the reason why I air dry it is because the skin dries out and gets crazy crispy once you roast it. Okay, so I'm going to take some butter. We're going to go under the skin. And the reason why I'm wearing gloves, of course, is just push a little bit, separate very delicately, not to break it. You separate the skin on the breast. Get as much room temperature butter as you can under as much of the skin of this turkey as you want. I just got a little lazy and decided to use salted butter so that I didn't have to salt it. It just made things easy. So get as much butter under the skin. You can get it under the legs as well. Again, you have to separate the skin from the thigh, get the butter in there. The more butter you can get under the skin, the more golden your bird is going to be. And then a light salt and pepper, but we already have the brine, which made this already seasoned and delicious. I would say it's probably about a 12 to 13 pound bird, and this only took us an hour and a half to cook, which is crazy, because normally we have to sit there for 3 to 4 hours waiting on our turkey. But it's so incredibly fast, and when you come back, you can see how beautiful it turned out. I'll see you in a minute. SoFlo Taste will return right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste and our first Thanksgiving show. I wanted to show you the way a few things came out. So I went into a really hot oven. I set my oven at 470 degrees and put in my sweet potato casserole with the toasted marshmallows in, and it really only took 4 to 5 minutes for them to get beautifully toasty. And then, of course, this is our spatchcock turkey. Look how golden it is. I mean, the great thing about a spatchcock, you have all this gorgeous crispy skin. There's nothing underneath that you're missing. It's all crispy and it's all beautifully tender and juicy, and we've cut our time in more than 50%, which is great. And then, of course, those green beans with the mushrooms and the crunchy onions. My mouth is watering already. Thanksgiving, such a wonderful holiday, a wonderful time for family and friends, and a great time to give back. It's a great start to the holiday season, so I hope I've given you a great start to your Thanksgiving menu. Now join me next week as this Thanksgiving party will continue. I will give you some more recipes that will hopefully become a favorite of your family and you. And I'll have some help in doing that, by the way. The SoFlo Show's hosts will stop by to give me a hand with the cooking and the eating. And speaking of SoFlo Taste Show hosts, time to check in with Hunter, host of SoFlo Health. Good morning, Hunter. What have you got for us tomorrow?
Hey there, Michelle. You definitely have me ready for Thanksgiving with those dishes. And I know it looks like I'm sleeping on the job, and I sort of am, because we're going to talk to you tomorrow on SoFlo Health about how to sleep better. We'll go over some supplements that you can take, some things you can do before you even get into bed, and then how to sleep once you're in bed. It's all right here tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. on the one and only Local 10 for SoFlo Health.
Okay, Hunter, we'll be watching. So Taste Buds, again, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next week for more Thanksgiving. Goodbye, and very good taste. Gobble it up.